of course, welcome back into our second hour of Smart Minutes Business. And of course, it's just 2 minutes past 8 a.m. And of course, thank you for joining us from all the way from 7 a.m. And of course, we're always here to give you the very best of information in line with Business 24/7. We're always here. But anyway, today is a Friday, and I guess most of you must be, being the last day of some people's work week. It is always, a little bit hasty, and people, find it difficult, to come in earlier to work because, I tend to do work half day. Well, there's lack of motivation one way or the other. And the fact that we're in January, things may not be going as expected, but we are always here to get you inspired. Let's first get into that, and we shall be right back. Well, of course, work hard and snack often. Please, just always there to remind you that you have to eat as well as work. And of course, if you work on an empty stomach, you're not that productive. And of course, research about your competitors. Well, recently I've been reading something about sleeping. Tourism yesterday. I read about it, and I was really impressed by how much people have invested. They save up some money and really decide to go and sleep, because exhaustion it's real. I believe it is key, actually. Whoever came up with such an idea, Andrew, if you have to agree with me, you have to realize that this person was really cared about people's mental health. The sleeping tourism.
Yeah. And that is something that work in the foreign market, simply because these are people that love to explore a lot of aspects. But I don't think any person would pay a penny in African setting to sleep on a bed, to feel the comfort. It's a rare issue.
No, it may not actually be.
It's a good idea.
Because at the end of the
It's a
day,
good
you'll
idea.
find where you even supposed to think you're going to sleep. You have family, you have kids, you have a wife, you cannot have a good night's sleep. Yeah.
But I think sleep is about peace. Your inner peace. You concentrate.
It
It may
is.
not necessarily, because there are times you can sleep on a very comfortable bed and you you lose sleep if you don't concentrate. Actually, sleep comes from a place of meditation, and you sleep.
Oh, yeah.
So sleep tourism in itself, I'm trying to understand how unique is that bed that if I fall on it, I'm going to get sleep. So those are aspects that you need to explain in the African narrative.
It is just you go and sleep. It's just about sleeping. You go invest your money there, put your money there, and sleep for 24 hours. Nothing. You're indoors or you're outdoors. You're just resting. resting your mind. You may not sleep and close your eyes and full slumber, go into deep slumber, but resting, meditation.
Meditation.
Just close your eyes and feel the environment, the birds, everything. Just peace of mind. That's it.
Okay.
I believe everyone needs like one day in a week for that, for us to have a clear conscience.
And you
what
sleep.
is happening. Because of this economy that we are living in, it's tight. People have lost sleep due to means of finding money. Ways you have to get money. So once in a while, take a break. Use your weekends productively. Instead of, which is good. Some people use their time for other things, but for me, I believe if you've been exhausted the whole week, you don't need to be exhausted again and go and happen. You go have some rest, have some 7 hours, have some 8 hours of sleep. Wake up when you're fresh and ready to start the week. Yeah, which I believe is important. Yeah,
absolutely, very interesting. And getting back to our discussion today about the youth inclusion in the NAM, I remember actually the Abidjan Declaration. It was quite clear about establishing a youth wing and women and youth. Of course, we've seen women having which has been ongoing for this NAM summit, but the youth have not seemed to be a bit prioritized. And yet, when the former chairman of the non-alignment movement made it clear on day one about the need for a youth wing, and we know the African demographics, the youth is quite play a key factor, most especially when they participate in aspects like technology and that. And now that still also brings me back to some of the resolutions of the non-alignment movement, most especially from the business perspective, the summit, where they have planned, initiated the aspect of the non-alignment movement business council. This is purposeful. It's a vehicle purposely for development, which will foster transfer of technology. And these are all sectors that youth can heavily engage in. And why am I saying the youth is quite key and important? It still puts me back to a report by the International Labour Organization that put it out there that lots of Africans who are youths actually are working but poor. It indicated that about 15 million Africans who got jobs last year, less of the 15 million, 3.5 weren't earning enough per day to sustain their families.
Yeah. And that is what we've been talking about. Remember, you talked about the 2 million jobs. Is it 2 million jobs?
For
the ones that, with that Uganda is hoping to.
This year, last year there were 2 million jobs. Now they hope to create 2 million more jobs through industry this year.
Yeah, through industry. But of course, if you've taken keen interest and researched about how much those guys earn, I mean, of course, they won't give them. Of course, there will be these people in the youth that are into informal. They have to do packaging and all that. When you look at the pay, actually, I don't think it's really worth dying for some people, because they feel like, why am I going to work for 200,000? It can barely pay my rent. It can barely facilitate me for a month. I mean, you use all that. If you find you're in a situation where you use almost your salary on transport and food, I don't think you're earning as much.
Yeah, that is true, because still the International Labour Organization was indicating that out of the 148 million people employed in Africa, a small percentage, about most of them don't take home $2.15 a day. That's how much in Ugandan said, and that would be about 8,000. So that kind of speaks to you and shows you where we have to be. And putting youth out of such activities is not quite an important perspective. And also, it brings me back to what was happening in Switzerland, Davos, in the World Economic Forum. Part of the key discussions were related to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is one of the global risks, and there are quite lots of jobs that to be created. And these are sectors which normally accommodate the youth. most especially in Uganda, where we are looking at technology transfer. Because now for the developing nations, considering the non-alignment movement, our huge focus should be on technology transfer and the utilizing of the African continental free trade area. Those were actually the biggest focus that was passed across to see that the youth can effectively participate. And seeing the private sector foundation working out with quite a new initiatives, creating 300,000 jobs for people right there. I mean, it speaks quite a lot when it comes to why I feel the youth need to be included. But despite that, I understand the non-alignment movement has had quite lots of reforms which are discussed in the way, but we've experienced a weakness, most especially when it comes to implementation, slow implementation, and that is lagging behind the economies because we have, away from the narrative of the composure of the nations in here, but there is a slow movement when it comes to implementation. Recently, there was a reform regarding the non-alignment movement development bank, and till today, we actually don't see that coming into pass, and the nations still run to the Bretton Woods institutions for funding.
Well, of course, I believe now that it started with Abidjan, and of course, for the how many years since 2019 till last year, and of course, how many? 4 years?
It's 3 years. It's supposed to be 3 years. You be chairman for 3 years.
Was that an extension due to COVID-19? But of course, I believe there is an opportunity for Uganda to tap onto this because the former host actually initiated this, and I believe now that Uganda is seeking to be involved in the Women's Secretariat, there's also that forum, also the youth and women. So that means as they, focus on the women as well, there is also a possibility to tap
into
the youth to tap into those innovations. But of course, we've had challenges when it comes to financing, these innovations. I mean, because most Ugandans are brilliant, mostly the young ones are really brilliant. There was the investment forum that happened. And of course, talking about business and all that, I saw different youth coming up and they had different products, this is. But of course, most of them had a challenge with financing. They have failed to have capital to start up some things, start up their small businesses, because I don't think capital needs, you don't need a lot, you don't need billions of money. So I believe if at all these initiatives that government is setting into place, the parish development model, if the youth are really serious about business, and they want to improve themselves, I mean, that is why they are called household income generating projects. If they're serious, because when you're youth, you have a mind that is full of ideas, you can improvise, And the thing about Ugandan youth is that we are waiting, to be employed when we are not creative enough. But of course, those that have been creative enough have not been given the chance, to showcase what they have. Of course, they have what they can showcase. Where there is a symposium, there is an exhibition, we come and exhibit. At the end of the day, that is it. The exhibition happened, that is it. I mean, someone explains what they have and they're asking for government intervention and it's never there.
I've actually
perished due to that.
Talking about government intervention, the only issue I'll try to maybe point out is the criteria in which that, because the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance normally there was I think in 2017 it offers and it opens up whereby people with innovations, you go there, and you're given some support in some kind of a way. Though the actual perspective is how the criteria is like, because it has actually come out to support a few innovations at global stages. I'm also especially talking about competitions on, and I think there was one which happened, was it in Dubai? And Uganda was recognized as an innovation hub. There were startups that were birthed as a result of that. It's been like 2 years back ever since that happened. But the only perspective is, I think, it comes to what sectors are we prioritizing when it comes to investment. You can invest, but it matters. You recently saw the Auditor General's report of the PDM. projects, some of the PDM projects which weren't in existence. Okay, away from not being in existence, but those that even were there were totally off the parish development models perspective. So I think that we still lack intelligence in terms of understanding what is required. The report, the Caribbean East Africa report was revealing to us that the venture capital funding that goes to Kenya, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and which other country? They are for Egypt. Most of them are into financial technology. Yeah. So, but that also depends on the economic the competitive advantage you have. In Uganda, we have agriculture.
Yes.
You know, if we can best, I'm so grateful for Naro. Naro is really doing whatever it takes. You know, out there recently they put up a vaccination for ticks, anthrax, and I was so amazed by how much money people use as a result of cattle disease annually. 3.7 trillion. Now that is being solved. Now they are planning to breed goats to enhance meat and milk production, producing goat milk and meat at the same time. So those could be, we could position ourselves that way, most especially the youth participating, such that we can be able to tap into some of these funds as much as we look into the bigger markets of the non-alignment movement. But the bigger picture here is implementation and, you know, having the focus and focusing on investment, because this time around there is there are financial partners coming on board, you know, Afro-Exim, giving interest rates at giving loans at very low interest rates, you know, and at first the government was anticipating a capital of deals worth $1 billion, that is 3.7 trillion. Now I think they come down a little bit, because as of yesterday it was 2.5 billion signed, and now they want 300 billion. So where is the youth involvement in here? All these opportunities for the youth, but it would actually be much more effective when it comes to the leadership of the youth councils, seeing how we can put this out. And exchange programs is also a key aspect here. The youth leaving Uganda, heading to the NAM states, they get some skills, and, you know, they bring back these skills home for economic development.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We saw Kenya doing it. We saw that South Africa has been doing it. Mostly when you talked about technology
transfer is a key issue. It's been, that's why it's the whole purpose, most especially of the NAM Business Council, technology mobility, most especially to developing countries in Africa. Yeah. So
I don't know really, but of course, I mean, even with the priorities that we have, I believe the youth participating, of course, when you talk about now, tourism is also one of the priorities that we have. We've seen most tour operators, most of them are youth. I mean,
tour operators.
Most of them are youth, those that are involved in tour guides and all that, the different applications that have come, you know, for bookings and all the likes. Most of them are, I mean, in every sector, there are youth involved.
Yeah, actually, when you talk about that, I remember there was something Ankole people were complaining that it has tourism potentials, but it's not being exploited. And because why? There is no digitization. They are not putting it out there. So I'm thinking, if you're in Ankole right there, you're a youth, this is your chance. You can be a part of this. You can embark on an innovation that is exposing tourism attraction centers in Ankole. Publicize, put it on the web, let it be known. Actually, it will attract tourism. You'll make money too.
Yes, it's recently actually when I saw, was it last month, there was an Ankole cattle pageant. I mean, the Bahima, you know, they had the pageant, and of course their main issue was to have a forefront of their Ankole cattle.
Cattle, yes.
Yes, specifically their cattle. So they were all over social media posting. So for you to have been a pageant queen, you need to have to know the heritage, because Ankole actually is rich. We can actually even make a movie. When it comes to movie, we have a lot of heritage that we can show the world. So definitely we've seen, we have different, sites you know, that our the kingdom is also there, and there is
It's one
also
of the actually it's one of the idol tourist attractions in Ankole, the Omugabe's kingdom. Yeah.
Mugabe.
So
So
we need to.
there is a lot actually. So definitely, it could be started by that through that this pageant, and of course, when you're a pageant queen, you have to be posting on social media and all the likes. So definitely, I believe we have a lot of potential away from actually tourism. There is also a sector. We talked about agriculture, we talked about tourism, and we talked about technology.
Financial technology.
Yeah, financial technology. It's also one of the ventures that I feel we have a lot of potential, because we are a generation that is exposed to social media. We're exposed to different media platforms. So definitely we can at least spearhead in frontlining Uganda as in terms. I'm benchmarking on tourism because I mean that is the easiest way most youth can market and advertise Uganda.
Yeah, and,
Through domestic tourism.
that's absolutely true. As long as we are strategic enough, and Private Sector Foundation Uganda is planning onto the MICE strategy as one of the key perspectives to increase,
The mice.
yeah, to foster, as much as we attract, Uganda becomes a beautiful place for attracting international conferences. I mean, it doesn't not only come, it shouldn't end here. Come to my home, but I also have the sites that you can visit. But then that also calls for infrastructure gaps in this access to some of these tourism areas, which has been actually the key issue with Ankole in access, the hilly nature of the western region and all that aspects. Well, it's exactly 24 minutes past 8. Let's take a quick break, and the Smart Means Business turns shortly with the business and entertainment and sports at the same time.